Gig Gab, the show for working musicians, episode 426 for Monday, April 22nd, National Jelly Bean Day, 2024. Greetings, folks, and welcome to Gig Gab, the show by, for, and about working musicians here, as usual, in Durham, New Hampshire. I'm Dave Hamilton, and today my guest co-host is, he is with Train. He's worked with Grace Potter, Keith Urban, Danny Harrison, Gwen Stefani, Smash Mouth, countless others. The epitome, easy for me to say, of the working musician, Matt Musty. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to come with us and have some fun with us today.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I'm so stoked to be here. And also, we totally forgot to talk about the New Hampshire thing. I'm born and raised in New Hampshire.
Right. That's sort of how we got connected, kind of.
Yeah. You're in Durham?
I'm in Durham. Yeah.
Okay. I'm from Peart, which is north of like Hanover, Lebanon, West Leb area. Yeah.
I know the area. My son played hockey throughout grade school and high school and stuff, and so we have visited every corner of the state and all of New England that has a hockey rink. So I know the area quite well.
Big time hockey. I grew up playing pond hockey and watching the Mighty Ducks. So
there you go. Perfect. Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, but now you're in, you call LA home, is that right?
Yeah, we're in Los Feliz. It's kind of like, I tell people it's like the start of the east side of town.
Okay.
And it's the beginning of where a lot of music is happening. I would say most music, at least that I'm involved with, is happening here on the east side and then up in the valley.
Got it. Okay.
So it's kind of centric to everything, 15, 20 minutes away from most music things that I'm involved with, studio sessions, gigs, etc.
That's kind of amazing living in LA that you can be 15 to 20 minutes away from most of the things that you need to do. That's not what I hear from most people I know who live in LA.
And by 15, 20 minutes, I mean 3 to 4 hours.
Yes, right. Yeah.
No, I'm pretty close to where the action's at, where I would consider good music to be happening.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. That's awesome. So, all right, let's talk about all the music that's happening. We'll get into all of it, but you are a member of Train, or you are the hired gun with Train. What's the relationship there?
Kind of both. Pat, the lead singer, owns the band,
Got it.
But it's treated as a creative partnership for sure, and just a unit of folks whose opinions are asked, which is kind of new for me. Yeah, it's like that line of kind of behaving yourself and shutting up and doing the job is kind of fuzzy in the Train thing, because it appears as a band and some moments are a band kind of scenario. So yes and no, but I've been in that world for 5 years. I just celebrated 5 years with the band, and I love it there. It's a great home for me.
Congratulations, that's awesome. So and you have when we talk about the collaboration, when you talk about the collaboration with Train, I mean you've co-written some songs. You've been you're not just, I joke that there are some gigs that I take where I am Dave Bang Drum. I show up, bang the drum, go home. I have no opinions. I don't care about your politics. I just leave as quickly as I can as soon as I finish banging the drum. That is not what goes on with you and Train at all. So that's cool.
No, but it is what has gone on previous to Train 100% of my career. I would say is just mostly, you're showing up to do a record, and you are a tool in someone's toolkit. Yeah. And they say, okay, here's a great bass player or guitarist or drummer. Can we do a Phil Spector kind of thing on this song? And like a Motown Phil into a Phil Spector groove. Do that. Yeah. And I go, sure. And it's Matt Bang Drum at that point. And it's great. And I love that vocation. I love, being produced is one of my favorite things in the world. So when we go into session with Train, even if I'm like a writer on the song, it's still okay. Say Butch Walker is producing it. I ask the manager, I go, am I co-producing this with Jerry and Butch, say, or Pat? And they tell me which hat I'm meant to put on that day, you know?
Yeah,
so
I
the
do
line
know.
is fuzzy, and I love putting on either hat, but like to feel comfortable as a producer is a different game than to feel comfortable as a drummer.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you have like you have the wherewithal to ask that question, and they will answer it for you. So you know whether in this particular moment, are you Matt Bang Drum? Are you
Yeah. And they are always like overly respectful about it. They're like, I wish they weren't as much, because they're just like, definitely say something if you hear something. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna be careful on that unless I'm in charge of this sound,
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna do like play the drums and do the best job I can as a session musician at that moment, if that's what I'm meant to be on this song.
Right. Well, and there's some freedom in that, where it's I guess I would equate it to the freedom that I feel playing with a click versus not playing with a click, right? Like both have their freedoms, don't get me wrong. But when I'm playing with a click, it's not my job to keep time. It's my job to keep the groove, and the time is being kept for me. It's, you want to make the click feel like it's grooving.
In fact, it's your job to be imperfect.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Right. I can add the imperfection in while obviously still driving the thing and doing all that. But the click is, it provides some freedom. And similarly, I when I'm working on a session gig where someone else is the producer, it's the same kind of thing, right? And you're like, you get to go and be the drummer and nothing else, right? And that's kind of cool. Yeah.
I do love that, and I agree with you on the, like, there's a freedom in that, and like, frankly, like there's more freedom within the construct of a song than, say, for me at least, a like open free jazz experimentation or what have you.
Sure.
Like I excel in like the song world, folk song, rock song, country song. These kind of things with a form and a general shape, and I really can find my voice within there. Same thing with playing like Drops of Jupiter live. There are some fills that you really are signature that you need to do note for note, because that's such a great drum performance. And then there are other moments where you can kind of do your thing and speak and have your voice on like verse 2, within the part. And it's great. I love, that's the beauty of being a session musician that's like kind of misconstrued by those who aren't. Like often like, oh, you're just the drummer on the session. Don't you wish you could be Neil Peart on that session? And I'm like, no, I really want to be Shannon Forrest or one of these like Nashville guys and just play Fred Eltringham and just play great time and like very musical, loose, imperfect human time. That's kind of what I excel at, and what most artists, even if I've never met them, walking into a session want me to show up and do.
Yes. And the reality is that's what Neil Peart did most of the time anyway. Like he played time, he wanted it to feel human. They never played to a click live. Not that there's nothing wrong with that, but they wanted to have the human element. Yes, he also crafted these drum parts that had these bombastic moments of technical
which are
exposition.
So cool. I don't mean to like disregard that. It's just
but that
that's
wasn't
such a
the
specific
primary thing.
Yeah.
Like even within Rush songs, that wasn't the primary thing that Neil Peart did, right? He crafted a drum part that fit the song. It just so happened that those songs, most of them anyway, needed bombast. And right, but and if I can take a minute and continue pull on this thread a little bit, I think Neil Peart gets his ability to craft a drum part gets overlooked because of his ability to play the drum parts that he crafted, or to have played the drum parts that he crafted. He, don't get me wrong, monster technician, right? In his own right, he could play all of those parts. But we know other people who can play those parts. You and I might be able to play some of those parts too, but we didn't write them.
No,
he wrote them.
It's a different thing. Yeah.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
He composed these things within the structure of the song, and for the most part made them perfect.
Yeah.
And that is, to me, where he stands alone. You know,
Yes.
I know a lot of people who can outplay him. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can you write those parts? Like, I don't know anybody else like that.
It takes a real originator. We did, we do every couple of years, we'll play the Budweiser stage in Toronto, and we always like, what are we going to do? What kind of Rush thing are we going to do? And it always ends up, like, we even worked out like a stinger at the end of songs, which we do a lot, which is just holding a chord and drums go crazy and then end the tune. They call it a stinger. I don't know what it's called, but it's a stinger. Yeah. And, we had this one, I forget what song we were going to end, but whatever the chord was, we were going to go sure, you know, like all that, and then end it. But what we ended up doing is, because we couldn't couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, it turns out it's not as easy as it sounds. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I just ended up going, like, to end the song, it just went.
Oh,
you know?
nice. Yeah,
that was
YYZ.
easy, and like, little YYZ in YYZ. That's great. You know, that's enough.
Great.
And I could like almost feel the Toronto crowd just going, yeah. We know, we know.
We're here. Yeah, we're aware.
Everyone does that shit.
Yeah, well, but that's okay.
Do something original. Play an Our Lady Peace song.
Sure. I'm sure that more bands than not, when they're playing certainly their first gigs in Cleveland, walk on stage and say, hello, Cleveland. Yes. I know I did the first time I played in Cleveland. It's how it works. Yeah.
You know what? I got a good Cleveland story, but first I've got a Kansas City story.
Okay.
There's some sort of theater, I forget what it is. It might be like a House of Blues or something in Kansas City. And the last thing you see when you're going on stage is singers. Remember, you are in Missouri, not in Kansas.
Oh, yeah.
Because so many people walked on stage. What's up, Kansas? And then
I can see that. Sure.
And then the Cleveland thing is a pretty amazing story. I was just reminded of this the other day. I was playing in a band, and we were loading into House of Blues in Cleveland, and on the loading dock, there's all this kind of graffiti and artwork, just, a bunch of stuff on the loading dock, as there tends to be on loading docks at venues. Our singer takes a photo of one of the walls. We're like, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I just saw some really cool art. I've been thinking about a new tattoo anyway. I think I'll get it kind of prominently right on my arm here. This great art that I just took. We finished the run. We're back home in Nashville. I was living in Nashville at the time. And we go, like, 2 weeks later, we're back on the road, and he's out at merch or whatever, and someone comes up to him buying a t-shirt, getting a photo, and go, oh, big Alkaline Trio fan? They see the tattoo, and it's the Alkaline Trio logo, which is in fact a great piece of art, but he had no idea, and tattooed it prominently on his body right here. And I was like, yeah, nice.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. There is always that when you're getting a tattoo. Like, if you don't know what it means,
vet that thing.
Yeah, you can use Google reverse image search, and it can be your friend. That's right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you can. You can. I'm also a nerd. Like, I'm a tech nerd, and so you go to images.google.com, upload a picture to it, and it will show you other pictures like that. So
that's incredible.
Yep. Yeah, you can, folks. This might be the most important tip we've ever shared on Gig Gab.
Yes. Watch out for your tattoos. Google image search reverse Chat GPT. Whatever it is.
So, all right, you talked about the idiosyncrasies, the unique elements of two different venues here. It leads me to a question. When you're playing larger venues like you are with Train, and perhaps with other artists too, do they become just sort of homogenous? Can you tell where you are? Do you care where you are? Maybe that's a more important thing. Like, are there certain venues, even when you're in the 10,000 plus or 5,000, 8,000 plus range, seats or whatever? Do you notice the difference in the sound? Do you care about the way the venue is? Is there anything about any venues that stands out to you?
There are distinguishing features for sure. Sometimes it is about the venue, like Blossom in Cleveland is a really great amphitheater and has that like a lot of wood in the background, and it sounds great, and it's meant for like orchestras.
Yes,
or maybe it was at one time. Now it's touring bands, but like Blossom is always special because of the venue itself. There's another one, Tanglewood in Massachusetts, same kind of thing, and it's old. It's got a dirt floor, and like it's really the venues themselves kind of like. There's one in, I think it's Houston, that has like air conditioning on stage, which in Texas in August is huge.
Is that the oh crap? It's the Woodlands or something in Houston?
Yeah. I think it's that one or the one in Dallas. Is it outdoor?
Because that's a shed or something, right?
It's a shed, but
it would be the Woodlands.
They, like,
that place is gorgeous.
On the bottom. Yeah. It's either the Woodlands or like the Dallas one,
the Star Echo Theater or whatever.
Something.
Yeah.
Which I'm always happy when they're like not the name of a bank yet.
Well, they probably are. You just call it the old name now.
I know. Yeah. Boston Tweeter Center,
Well, no. That's
Great
Woods.
It's Great Woods, yeah.
That's Great Woods.
But when I was a kid, it was Tweeter Center, which was also a big company. But
right.
Great Woods, yes.
I grew up knowing that as Great Woods. I grew up in Connecticut, but we would go up there for shows occasionally, and we still call it Great Woods. We refuse to refer to it as whatever it actually is.
Everyone's got the old name, which is nice. It's nice. Yeah. And then the other part is not the venue, not the physical venue itself, but like who's there that night, like who of my family or a longtime friend, or like that always makes it special, because I know. When I go to, like, I don't know. I mean, when I go to Guilford, New Hampshire, for instance, there's gonna be a ton of my family there. But also when I go to the Great Woods, there's gonna be 5 or 6 people. That really makes it special and breaks it up in a nice way for me.
Yep. Oh, I can totally see that. So I got to ask you though, because I've heard stories about. Meadowbrook in Guilford, New Hampshire, that their like backstage accommodations beat everything. They evidently have like a house on Lake Winnipesaukee where the bands can stay, and like I've heard bands on stage stopping the show to rave about how much they love these accommodations there. Have you ever gotten to experience this, or are you in and out too fast?
I've played there a handful of times.
Okay,
and in a way, I've gotten to experience it, but in a way, I really like those gigs because I'm from New Hampshire. No one's from New Hampshire except for me. And like everyone's hanging out, enjoying the pool, taking bikes by the lake, eating fresh lobster that day. From that day, they're like taking their Meadowbrook like mug and like the jammies that they make, like they really do. That's all true, and it is New Hampshire.
Okay,
it puts New Hampshire on the map for these touring guys. They're like, you're from New Hampshire? Oh, Guilford,
I assume that's why they did it, because they got to drag people a little bit off the beaten path on their tour. So
so it keeps everyone kind of coming back to that venue. But it's the greatest room. But I'm always busy with family. I'm busy with that big guest list, hosting, hanging out. It's great, but like, I've never really gotten to enjoy that backstage the way that the guys who are from Texas do. They're just like, wow, this is a nice, but that is a venue that everyone would say that's the best backstage by far in the world.
So the fact that I live in New Hampshire is actually a detriment to me, because I can't I can't pester you to like put me on the guest list that day, because you've probably already overstayed your welcome.
I mean, you are always welcome, of course. But I can tell you, I won't have as much time if you came to like Connecticut,
Yeah, interesting, right? Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. Yeah.
I'm stretched thin that day, but in the greatest way.
Right.
Every time we're there, it's like, oh God, I get to see my whole family.
Right.
So it's a good problem.
It's no, I get that. I haven't spent nearly the same amount of time on the road that you have, but I did a tour with a band called Hypnotic Clambake 100 years ago.
Oh, cool! What a name!
I know. I was actually living in Texas, and they were from Boston. We had just moved to Texas, and then I wound up heading back to Boston to do this gig. But yeah, it was during rehearsals for us, like our last bit of rehearsals, where my whole family like came up and was hanging out, and it was like, okay, well, I have like a lot of stuff to do. I got to get ready. I got to learn these songs for this band that we're starting this tour like in 3 days. But sure, let's hang out. That sounds good. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty straight with most of my guests. It is a thing where like we kind of call it Woodwork Day. Like when a tour gets announced, you get a number of text messages from people who are both family, friends, and also straight out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, hey, by the way, I just saw, how are you? I get the how are you text.
How are you?
Hey, man, just been thinking about you. How are you? And I'm like, come on. Just ask.
Just be upfront about it.
Just say it. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So everybody, now you know.
Woodwork Day.
Yeah, understand if you're reaching out on Woodwork Day that everybody knows it's Woodwork Day. That's right.
Just be straight about it.
Just be straight about it. It's fine. It's fine.
another like, another set of good problems.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, totally.
What a luxury, like that people are hitting you up for anything in life,
That's amazing.
It's nice that people want to come see what you do,
That's absolutely. I mean,
because I can feel myself.
Part of why we do what we do.
Because I can feel myself coming off like an asshole on this podcast. So I really need to be more grateful. And I'm grateful. I'm just blessed in this career.
Yes. No, say it loud and proud.
Absolutely.
And you're not coming off like an asshole.
Good.
Not at all. No. I always say for this show, the people who are listening are either musicians, and so even if they haven't spent any time on the road, like you get this, even for local gigs, it doesn't matter, especially in fact, the closer the gig is to your house, the more people that are like, hey, can you put me on the list? And it's like, for a local band, it's like, well, yeah, if you don't mind me not getting paid for your ticket, sure, that's cool. Like there's that element of it too.
Buy a t-shirt, yeah.
Do something, yeah.
Well,
sure.
That's kind of the understanding, though. Like you get comped in, you go buy a record or a t-shirt or both, or at least a sticker. Like
something.
Really do. That's the unspoken. Like, yeah, come in, but like show up also.
Yes. Don't just be there to say you were there. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, especially for, like local LA bands. Allie and I will go to a lot of shows and of our friends who we're fans of, absolutely. But, and most of the time it's LA, so we just assume there's no guest list. But we show up, we buy a ticket, we buy a t-shirt, we show up, we enjoy the show. Sometimes we leave a little early, get back by like, 10 latest.
Sure, I get that.
Because we're old.
Yep.
And, you show up for your friends and people you're a fan of, and it's the way to be. So don't just show up and use. That's no way to be.
That's no way to be. No. Yeah. So no, our listeners get it. And the people who aren't musicians who listen because they want to hear the thoughts that are in our head that we usually only say in the green room, right?
Yes.
Like that's, I always say the stories that are most interesting on this show are the ones that go over terribly at local cocktail parties. Like if you're at your neighborhood cocktail party and you start telling these stories about, there's it's like, oh, come on, buddy. Like nobody wants to hear it. Like, no, we want to hear it. It's interesting to us.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a weird industry, but there are like these unspoken rules of like things you do and things you don't. Many of which I'm still learning and navigating, but many of which are really cemented in there.
Yeah. The unspoken rules of the guest list. I like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Folks, send us feedback at giggabpodcast.com. Send us your unspoken guest list rules. I think like we should start like a little wiki page about this.
Also, a huge faux pas. Don't show up, half an hour before your friend is going on and be like, where do I get my tickets? I couldn't find parking. What's will call? Where's the, That's,
texting from the parking or texting from your car.
It's going to go unanswered and it may be blocked.
That's right. This is
pe-
certainly the last time you're getting
with
one of
peace
these.
and love, I have too much to do.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. This is work. I remember being the thing that I did not like. I'd played plenty of gigs before I went out on the road. But the thing I didn't, I wasn't prepared for was that in each town that we were, the fans of the band that came out, I was hired for this tour, but the band already had a really strong following, especially in the area where we were touring.
Right.
And so the fans that would come out, this was party night for them. It was work night for us. It was a school night. Like, we had to do this again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so they would want to hang out after the gig. Most of them were respectful and not really pester us before the show or whatever. But after the gig, it's like, oh, let's go party. And it's like, well, maybe no. Like,
this is the long-term sustainability of that is like, it's even just with like drinking a glass of wine and like being up past midnight most nights, it's like it wears on you, and it makes me crazy to think of what touring was in the 80s or the 70s or the 90s or the early 2000s. Like,
I was doing it in the 90s.
Different story, different. Like, our rider is full of healthy food and like mango. And I can't imagine what it used to be, and I don't think I would have thrived in that atmosphere at all.
No, it took me about 2 days on the road to realize that I needed to not engage with any of that. The real trick was, we were on a converted school bus.
Yeah,
and
I've
they
done
had
that.
ripped all the seats out, right, and built bunks and a lounge and an area for the equipment. It was awesome. Except, it was sometimes cold at night. We had sleeping bags, we had blankets, it was all fine, but it's a school bus. Like, they're not insulated, and when it's parked, the heat's not on. So, the first time somebody offered the band, they're like, well, I have 2 beds, you could stay with me. I like jumped on it. I'm like, oh, definitely this.
Yeah.
And it seems strange to me that the rest of the band wasn't like racing right behind me. It's like, oh, this is interesting. The bass player did. He came with me, but I think he took the second bed for my benefit, not for his. Because these people wanted to stay up until, dawn. And it was like, we need to go to sleep. And after that, it was like, my bed on the bus is perfect. Like, can we stay out and can we park the bus in front of your apartment so that we can have a place to shower in the morning? But we're going to sleep on the bus.
When you're sleeping. Yeah.
Yes.
When you're sleeping it off.
Yeah. You're sleeping it off. I'll use your shower. That's right. Yeah.
God, so many things come to mind when you say converted school bus and staying with strangers. I toured with Jake Clemons, longtime friend, and he replaced his uncle Clarence Clemons in the E Street Band.
Right.
But we would tour with him, and we would also piggyback Bruce shows in the same town the next night or so, or the night before, and it was really smart. But what we were touring in was a converted shuttle bus from like an airport shuttle bus.
Yep.
And it had the handicap elevator thing that we'd lower our gear on and bring it up. It worked most of the time. And that thing broke down. That thing had no heat. It had too much heat sometimes.
Yep.
It was fumy.
That helps pass the time. The fuminess is good. It just kind of settles you in and you go for the ride. Yeah,
you kind of relax. Yeah, you don't remember the songs the next day, but you're pretty relaxed.
But
for
that's
the drive.
just details.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
He called it the SS Tina Turner, and he in that same breath I remember when he named it. He goes, if your van's got a name, something's up. Like if you've named your bus, that's maybe not a good bus. We're gonna see. We're gonna take our chances. We outran tornadoes with that thing. With a window flew off of it. We blew out a tire. We lost our brakes. God, we really went through it. And also on that same portion of my life, we stayed at these strangers, like an Airbnb, but the Airbnb situation was one that the hosts were also there.
Yeah, that's never a good idea.
And similar to what you were saying, they wanted to party, stay up. They had a whole setup happening. There was definitely drugs around.
Of course. Yeah.
They were like ready to go, and it was in I don't remember where we were, but they were also artists. So here's my traumatic story from this time. They were artists, and they made these really cool 3D paintings that they would set on the ground, and they would do it. They would set their board on the ground or canvas, whatever it was, and they would make these 3D beautiful paintings with like dimension and like little mountains and different. They would do it on the floor, and then it dried, and then they would hang it on, and it would poke. It would.
That's kind of cool.
Poke out into the room.
Sure.
Really cool, really talented people, out of their minds. But we were gathering in their basement for refreshments and rapport. And here I am.
Refreshments and rapport. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the name of the episode. But sure, yes.
So here I am, having just driven, 11 hours, say. And we're all just out of our minds, just zonked, like ready for a bed. And here's these people just fired up, ready to hang. And so I'm on my way into the like circle. I'm like reluctantly coming in, going, God, okay. Anyway, so
you rally, you pull it together.
I rally, and as I'm rallying, and as I'm walking over there, my foot goes into something wet, and I realize I've stepped into one of these paintings that is on the ground drying, and the record stopped, and everyone looks over, and I realize I have to stay up all night with these people and make sure they're not going to charge me $3,200 or whatever it is for this painting. And I'm like, come on, can I just get a break? Can I just get a break here today?
No,
why me?
Day.
Why me?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my trying to get a warm bed and a night of sleep story. I should have just slept in the Tina van.
Sleep in the Tina van. Yeah. The Hypnotic Clam Bakes bus was the UNBA.
The
UNBA. The UNBA.
Okay, UNBA.
I found out why it was called the UNBA, but we were weeks or months into the tour before I did. It was previously owned by the Dunbar Bus Company. And the first tour they had it on, they had not repainted it. So they were just driving this yellow school bus. And evidently someone in Texas, a law enforcement officer in Texas, stopped them and said, you cannot drive a yellow school bus around if you are not transporting, like licensed to transport school children, because you understand somebody with nefarious goals might leverage this for the wrong reasons. And it's like, oh, yeah, right.
So it's actually illegal to drive a yellow school bus.
Turns out, yeah,
oh my God.
The things you learn. Right. So they painted it, very quickly. And to Maury Rosenberg, the band leader's credit, he realized in the moment, he said, let's not paint this and make it look like the Partridge Family and announce that there is a band and gear in the bus, right? Let's just paint it. And so they painted it gray, but someone thought as they were painting it, they had painted over the D, and then they said, wait, there's something here that we can use. And so they left the UNBA and it became the UNBA.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great.
Sure. Yeah.
God, those times are like those times, really help you appreciate the comforts in life.
Any little comfort you might have ever in your life. Yes.
Any sort of like, especially in touring world, it's nice to travel with a bit of comfort. Especially having come from, I always kind of envy those people who walked straight onto the bus, and like were comfortable from day one, and it was just no problem. But they're also missing that fun, those crazy times.
Are they actually missing them?
Well,
I think if you asked them if they were missing them, they would say not even a little bit.
Maybe it's just nostalgia and romanticism, but I don't want to go back to those days, but I'm glad that I went through them. It's like I lived in New York for a few years, and I don't want to live in New York again, but I'm glad I did.
Sure, I get that. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You feel like you passed some sort of test by doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
that makes sense. Yes. Yeah. There's a rite of passage there.
You paid there's a rite of passage. You paid admission to whatever you're doing now.
There's a sound engineer, front of house and monitor engineer and studio engineer that we've had on the show a couple times, my friend Dave Cook, and he started his road career doing front of house for Carly Simon. So he never had to like suffer through anything. Because I asked him, I'm like, well, what have you learned from like going from like humble beginnings to this? Like, what advice would you give to yourself going back? He's like, I don't have that advice. I don't.
He's
know.
like, what humble beginnings?
What humble beginnings? He also like halfway through the interview, he sort of casually mentioned, well, yeah, I was the one who engineered Love Shack. And it's like, what? I've known you for a decade. This has never come out. Like,
didn't come up. You never asked.
Like, yeah, that's what he said. He's like, well, I don't know to ask everybody if you engineered Love Shack, man. Like that's not a thing. Like, you might want to lead with that, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of things that you know now that are applicable to your humble beginnings, I'm always curious to dig in, tips from the road, and you have enough perspective of this, because I think in addition to playing with Train, you also still play local gigs at like crappy dive bars sometimes and those sorts of things.
Oh yeah, I try to a lot. I mean, like my friend, there's a lot of great players around here who love doing that. Yeah. One in particular, this guy John Sawson. He was in Lucas Graham's band, and now he plays in Kacey Musgraves' band. He's this great guitarist, vocalist, amazing, stunning musician. And he hosts these. He lives in Whittier, which is way like an hour from here, probably. Okay. And he hosts these. He like became friends with the Whittier Brewing Company and has these. They have a PA, and he goes, I bet I could get some cats to come out here and play, and like. Every weekend he's out there playing with like one band. Every band is greater than the next. Like it's the craziest lineup of people all the time. And so I love going to do that gig because not only are you hanging out with friends, you're playing great music and eating food and drinking cool like local whatever craft brews are happening in Whittier. But like Whittier's a scene now because of Sawson. All of a sudden,
That's great. That's great.
Like, same thing happens with like I play in a band that Allie named actually called Valley Famous, which it's a band. It's a band that plays together once every like 2 years because schedules never align. But it's Jeff Babco, it's Drew Taubenfeld, John Button, and myself, and it just lightning in the bottle. Those gigs, it's really fun to you just show up. We go, what do you want to play? And like. Sometimes we show up with charts. Sometimes it's kind of looser than that.
Less charts. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it's great.
So take that, you're walking into to that gig versus, what you walk into a Train gig with, like, when I assume on a Train gig, there's a lot more logistics to be dealt with, but there's also a lot more people to handle them. And I'm presuming on a local gig, you're bringing your own drums, you're setting them up, and like most of us do, and that's fine. I guess I'll start with, which do you prefer? Like, do you like when you have to set up your drums, or do you like just showing up and like being rushed to the stage and here you go, here's your stuff, sir?
Well, no one's calling me sir, first of all, in either scenario.
On either side. Okay, good. That's good. All right, at least we've established that.
I love both. I mean, I love the local gigs for obvious reasons. I get to hang out with dear friends and play great music, Yeah. I also get to do that on the road, but not being home has its things. But I will say with Train, they do kind of they make for a pretty reasonable schedule every year. That's why
that's good.
It's like one of the huge pros of this gig, besides the like amazing catalog that I get to play, which is in itself unbelievable to do. But the fact that we're only on the road, the manager right away when it was happening was like, we do 2 months every summer, we do a summer tour, and that's kind of it. He's not messing around with New Year's gigs. He's not messing around with winter touring. There's some private gigs. There's a schedule in the off season, but it's not crazy. But the 2 months kind of rhythm of that every summer, where you can look forward to it and not get sick of it, instead of this constant, like, say you release an album and you're gone for 2 years. Say goodbye to your family for 2 years.
I'm sure Train did that initially. They would have had to at some level.
They definitely
maybe not.
did.
Yeah,
they definitely did. Just like all these guys, but
just like anyone, right? Just like anyone. Yes,
he has really figured out what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do, and it's really reasonable, and it makes us enjoy those summer tours because we just look forward to the hang. We get made a big deal of in front of a lot of people, which is fun and like taps that vein for us.
Sure.
But it also doesn't make you so jaded to be on the road. You look forward to it every year and you're not just like, oh God, I got to go back in 2 weeks, you know?
Yeah, right. No,
so it's
I can
a really
see that.
responsible rhythm, annual rhythm to get into, which is really nice.
What a charmed life to be able to, I mean, for Pat and you know, by extension, all of you, to have been able to create something that's feasible and workable to do, because like most bands don't get to a level where they can go play for 2 months and then take, 10 months essentially off. Most bands need to keep the cash flowing, right? And it's how it is, and that's okay too. Yeah,
he's definitely working. We're definitely working, but working from home and flying once in a while to the random gig here and there, like it's not a hectic schedule, and it makes for a very sustainable life and career, I think.
Well, and it sounds like it makes for a predictable life and career. And allows you to do other things when you know essentially when you need to carve out for your schedule. I would assume that Train is your priority. Like you are on call for them as much as you've negotiated to be on call for them, right? Yeah.
Totally. And there are those moments, I think, with every band where stuff comes up last minute, but like they're really good about like making sure the calendar is up to date. Master tour, like all this stuff that's you can kind of, as much as anyone in this industry can, kind of plan your life accordingly.
So wait, you mentioned Master Tour. Is that a piece of software that they use?
Yeah, it's an app that's like basically your tour schedule and details, and you input your guest list on there. And
no kidding.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Master
of course,
Tour
someone built an
MTD.
app for this. Yeah,
it's genius. Allie had a great idea. I shouldn't even, someone's going to invent it if I talk about it. But like,
listen, let me tell you something. I've been starting and running businesses for like 30 years. Ideas, and I say this on our Business Brain podcast. If you want an idea to be worth $100, write it on $100 bill. Ideas are worth nothing without execution.
I'm right. Totally.
So
totally.
I share ideas with people all the time because
is
chances
this not
are
the business podcast?
This is not the business. I'm sorry. Oh crap! I did it again. I lied to you.
Where am I? Oh God. Anyway, her idea was like to kind of intercept the two. I was talking to the Kacey Musgraves band about like, hey, we're going to be in Europe together in a couple months. Where do we cross over? Where can we link up? And if there was an app to do that, take all the different Master Tour accounts and go, hey, you're going to be in the same town as this. You're going to be in the same town as this guy. You're going to do this.
Oh, there would be like guest appearances on stage. Like this would enhance everyone's tour.
Yes.
Oh, in like a meaningful way. Oh, Master Tour should definitely, like they're the ones with the data. They should definitely do this. Yeah. So I want to take a minute, and you've mentioned Allie a few times, and we haven't talked about this connection here. So Matt, you and I met because a few weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago, whatever it was, I had Dallas Taylor from the 20,000 Hertz podcast on. And during that, I told him about, and in the process reviewed, a movie that I had seen at South by Southwest, the movie called Resonator, that was about ostensibly about this synthesizer that Don Tavel created in the 80s, and it was amazing. But as I mentioned in that review, the movie was created by his daughter, Allie Tavel, and really was a movie as much about a synthesizer, perhaps more about, this woman finding and learning about her father in this whole journey. That is the Allie of whom you keep speaking. And yes. Allie is your partner. And that's how you and I got to meet. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And Allie, it's a funny, it's funny in that it starts as like a music tech, seeming like a music tech film, but then develops into a father-daughter story, essentially. And you'll have to poke around more and talk to her about the details of that, because it's, like I said, like when we started, it's my favorite movie, and she has just premiered that. It's a decade in the works, and she's an all-star. She's someone who I'm constantly inspired by and just happy to be around. And we actually met on tour.
Oh, okay. So, all right, talk about that. That's fascinating to me. Yeah. So, yeah.
We met on the Grace Potter tour. Her drummer left. I came in, and we kind of started dating, like in secret, because I was afraid I was going to lose my gig if it came out public. Little did I know.
Hiccup there. It was the Grace Potter tour, you said, right?
Grace Potter tour. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
She was Grace's assistant, and we started dating. And I didn't want it to come out because, like Allie said at the time, she's like, she can get another drummer. She can't find another me. So I felt very replaceable at that moment, especially on a new gig. And here we were flirting with danger here. And
clearly it has worked out. And you were Grace eventually, I would presume, found out, and you presented this to her, and all worked out all right.
We presented it to her and the band in the funniest way ever, and she was like the most receptive and warm. Like it's like I got a promotion from coming out with Allie. She was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!"
Or another. Yeah.
She's like, "Don't screw this up! Don't screw this up!" Yeah. She's a great friend and amazing artist.
Yeah.
We love Grace Potter.
That movie is still one of my favorite. Resonator is still one of my favorite movies that I've seen this year. Like, it's just it really took me by surprise, as anybody who listened to my review of it could tell. Like, I did not expect to be in tears multiple times watching a movie about a synthesizer.
I find a new thing to cry at every time I watch it.
I bet. Yeah, I want to watch it again. I recently convinced my daughter to watch that movie. She is in her early 20s and lives on the other side of the world. She lives in Italy now.
Wow. And what's she doing in Italy?
Her boyfriend plays pro hockey in the Alps League there, believe it or not.
Whoa.
Or fiance, I should say. Sorry. I need to get used to these new terms. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, congrats. That's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah,
but that's amazing. A long way away.
It's a long way away, and it sucks, having her that far away. Selfishly, it sucks. It's an amazing opportunity, and I couldn't be happier for her.
Yeah.
But she watched it, and she wrote me, and she's like, "You told me that this was going to hit me hard, but like, I mean, come on." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." I know.
Yeah. It's such it started, Allie started just like being on tour with Grace. She's not a musician. She goes, "I think I have something to contribute to this conversation." It started as her just saying, "My dad invented some sort of synthesizer. I never knew him, but he's got some sort of synthesizer in my grandmother's attic." And she started just making this movie, wanted to make a mini doc about like what the resonator is and how it works. And it just, as pieces of the puzzle started coming together, it just became much, much more than that, and it became a decade-long process. So she is, hoping to be streaming next year and doing festivals this year, and really, really taking I would call it a victory lap, but it's not. It's no part of it's relaxing. She's just on fire all the time working on this thing.
I bet. Yeah. I will be shocked and extremely upset if this movie does not get distribution somewhere, and so I've been shouting from the rooftops as much as I can about it too. So it's great.
Yeah, well, she won the audience award at South by Southwest. So she's got a ton of great reviews, and like she's on a great path, especially for a first time director who doesn't consider herself a director.
Yeah.
She's unbelievable. So she can just do anything. So
it's
she's
amazing.
a superstar and powerhouse, and I'm happy to learn from her all the time.
I can imagine. I can imagine that. Yeah, she seems like a fantastic human, which is awesome. Yep.
She is who you see in the movie. This very honest,
I could tell,
just straight from the heart, kind of wears it on her sleeve person. And I've learned that that's kind of the way to be.
It's not a bad way to be.
No.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Sometimes you're that way and you think you're coming across like an asshole, but no, you're just being you, and it's okay.
Oh God.
We love gear. I'm changing gears to gear. We love gear on this show. Is there any gear that, obviously favorite drums would be great to talk about, but also anything else, accessories, microphones that you like to use? You do a lot of producing and recording as well. And I need to ask you about in-ear monitors because it's like, if there's one topic that has been in like 50% of the episodes of Gig Gab since its inception, it is that.
IEMs. Oh my
IEMs.
God. That's
I am
funny.
obsessed with them. I've been playing IEMs for over 20 years now. So I've been obsessed with them back before it was easy to do, even as a touring musician. And I wasn't. I was trying to figure out as a local musician. So it is of personal interest, both just because I use them, but also because used properly, they can really help preserve your hearing, and that's important to me too.
Yes. I'm about to move. Okay, let's get nerdy.
Okay, great.
And this has to do with in-ear monitors, but first of all, I don't love in-ear monitors. I like this much better. I feel like there's
over-the-ear
there's
headphones.
a spatialness here that doesn't happen with the in-ear monitors.
Have you tried adding reverb to your in-ear monitor mix?
Well, that's what I was getting at. This year we're about to go to Europe for a couple weeks, and this is the first of this sort of iteration of monitoring that I'm going to try, and it's avioms on stage, which an aviom to me as a studio guy makes a lot of sense. I can just have a stagnant mix and not mess with what they call snapshots of it, or scenes. Like each song has its own, if someone's not playing acoustic guitar, but instead are playing electric, that's a different line, and the acoustic guitar is muted on this song. I'd rather just have, the guitarist, up or down, the guitarist vocal, up or down, Pat vocal, Hector vocal, Jerry vocal, pianos, bass, and then some separation in drums. So 16 channels on my left. And then as far as reverb is concerned...
I need to stop you there, because what you just described, because most of the gigs I do I'm like the sound engineer, so that's what I have, and I've learned to love it. And then when I do a gig where somebody's like, well, I want to mix your monitors for you, it's like, why do you want to do that? I don't. We've never worked together before. How in the
And also,
why do you want to torture me like this?
It's the most thankless job in the industry. That and tour managing. Those are the least. Those are the jobs I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. But the job of a monitor engineer, to sit there and be staring at a show and just see these vague kind of hand motions.
That's awful.
All that. For nothing, for zero. Thanks, man. At the end of the show,
thanks. You always say thanks, even though you're not happy. So that and in-ears, it's never been my thing. I like in-ears when I can mix them myself and have a chance. At least I'm responsible. If it sucks, it's my fault.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say. And so in theory, we're working into a much better. You're gonna love it right now.
Yeah, I can already tell. But now go into the spatialness thing. I totally derailed this.
So no, not at all. And so avioms, I'm comfortable with avioms. I know that world.
Yep.
And also this year we're implementing a crotch mic, or an effects mic, basically. It's like a kind of center of the kit, above the beater, kind of pointed in between the bottom snares and the beater. And that mic into a pedal board because I have a little pedal board. I've got a JHS color box into a Earthquaker Ledges reverb, which has a cool room. It's almost like Gatey room on it. And then into a comp torsion. Do you know this Tech 21 NYC?
No.
I think it's a discontinued pedal, but my friend Andrew Petroff was like, okay, guitar pedal version of a distressor, essentially. So it gives a cool like distressy coloration, a compressor and distortion.
Sure.
And you can just squash this mic, and I can blend that into my overall drum sound instead of like, okay, can I have more reverb, please? Oh. There it is. Yeah. Tech 21.
Tech 21 comp torsion.
Torsion. So
compression distortion pedal. Sure. Yeah.
And so I have the reverb before that so that I can get a little bit more out of the, so I can squash that sound, you know, and blend it with my thing.
Do you know about the Yamaha EAD 10?
No.
Oh,
sounds awful.
It's awful. Yeah. It's this clip-on microphone.
I have heard about this.
That you clamp on the top edge of your bass drum, and it is built to mic the whole kit. And by golly, if it doesn't do that well,
oh my God.
It amazed me when I tested it here.
I gotta check that thing out. Did you do like an extensive deep dive on it that I can watch?
No, I just like tested it and was like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know where I would want to, like, where am I playing, where are any of us playing that we only have enough time to clamp a microphone on our kick drum and we're done, right? It's like, it's not that big of a deal to hang an overhead, put a mic in the kick, put a mic on the snare. That's true. You know, for a lot of gigs, that's all I need. And sometimes even overkill, but I love the overhead mic in my ears, right? Because I like to hear cymbals and things like that. So I didn't have a reason for this. However, what you just described is exactly the reason for this EAD 10. So.
And the same general area, like
that's what it is in that area. Yeah.
The placement and mic choice was important, and I think the placement will continue to be important as we get into our routine a little bit more. I can hear what's happening on stage, what the set, what the stage looks like this year, you know?
Yeah, right. That's fair. Yeah.
At the moment, I wanted something darker, but you know, hyper focused. So I got an M160 ribbon mic that's very directional, and I kind of have it pointed away from the ride cymbal, so I'm getting less of that. And I've tried it at my studio, and it's, in theory, it's in the right place, and it's the right microphone through the right chain of effects.
Yep, that makes sense.
Get some sort of squashy reverb that's fun and like blendable. Not my whole sound, certainly not the whole sound, but you know, it helps to just offset the dry, sometimes very uninspiring sound of close mics through in-ears.
Yes,
that I don't love. So that's the long version of like kind of getting headphones happening in a way. Yeah.
Yep. So I will also suggest that you experiment with reverb on not just your drums, but on everything. Because taking the vocals and the guitars and adding a healthy dose of reverb to that, for me, and I'm embarrassed to say that I only stumbled on this in the last 2 or 3 years. Like, I think it was after COVID lockdowns that I figured out that I don't know why it didn't dawn. I don't like reverb in general. Like, it feels
like a cop out to say it, but it's not. Like
I don't like it when I'm doing live sound. I stay.
No, it's a muddy mess.
It's a muddy mess, right?
Yeah.
And so it just never dawned on me. And there's times to use it and all that, but I'm very judicious about it. And when I added it to my ears, it was like, especially, running stereo ears with a little stereo reverb, it makes it sound like I'm in a room, not inside my head. So
yes. And the new Avions have that air kind of world, right?
You have the air. Yeah. You're adding air, right?
So exactly. My request all last year was like, quote, give me an embarrassing amount of reverb.
Okay. All right. So you've already tried this. Yeah. Okay.
So with shame and my tail between my legs, I go, please, wetter.
You're right.
and it just never kind of was enough. I think this blendable mic will help, and also
Yeah.
we have these audience mics right and left that does kind of gets the PA, it gets the audience. It always inevitably has someone in front of the mic going, "Yeah, I can't believe they're back here. It's been 2 years."
Yeah, that sucks.
But throw it through some sort of reverb mess, and all of a sudden you get kind of the PA, the full band sound through a bit of reverb. And also I call it just like rooms, like, like kind of drum rooms, because drums, we're ampless, and like drums are the loudest thing on stage.
Right.
I can't speak for the PA, who knows, but like, you're definitely getting some of that, some of the drum thing, even if they're cardioid pointed out of the audience. You're getting something out of it.
I noticed as the bands that I was playing with started moving to ampless on stage, I noticed that my ears mix needed to change dramatically, because I was using the overhead as the wash mic, right? Yeah. Just getting stage
and not
wash.
An articulate mic, just like a room mic. Yeah,
just like room mic. Yeah, exactly. And then suddenly it was like, oh, this just became a drum mic. This is not this is not. I know what I'm playing. Like, I want to hear a little bit of it, but I need to hear those guys. Like, what's going on? So it's interesting.
So that's been my rabbit hole recently, just in prep for like being on tour and trying to be happy. And none of that will even make it to front of house, because our guy is going to mix the show the way he's going to mix the show. And he does an amazing job. But like, it's just to inspire you to play better. And that's the entire point.
That's it. That's it. Yep.
And to be happy on stage, and to not be a jaded touring musician who everything sucks and this is the worst and my mix was worse tonight than ever, just to be happy and inspired and musical on stage.
Yep. No, yes, that really is in addition to, again, the potential for hearing protection, and I lean in on potential, because you can turn them up louder than you had it on stage without them if you so choose.
Yes.
However, the potential for hearing protection, and then just being happy on stage, and hopefully once you figure out what it takes to get to happy, consistency with that on stage.
Therapy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. In-ear therapy. I love it.
But the focus lately has been less on drums and cymbals now, and more into preamps and compressors and microphones, So
sounds about right.
Just, post-pandemic, everyone got better from home, and I'm sending tracks for records from my spot now.
Yeah.
And I wasn't before. It's a better scenario from home, and I'm very comfortable with it now, and I can know by the genre or the kind of tune that we're working with what they might want for options, and I'll send them those options.
That's great.
Unless they're like, give me a some people are just like, give me stereo drums, like mix it yourself and send it. And I go, great.
I always, I'm happy to do that for people.
Yeah. But this is like for commercials, something quick and dirty,
I know,
they're
but
like,
even,
don't give me a million options, just do it.
Even still, like stereo drums, it's like, how are you gonna, what?
Yeah.
You're gonna, like, if you want the drums louder, you get my snare reverb louder. Like,
yes.
It's just how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Like, don't you get that? No, never mind.
No,
never mind. Stereo drums. Thank you for the check. Yeah. That's right.
Yes, exactly. So it's all getting quicker and better, and definitely my focus is less like it's more, again, like Jim Scott. Like, I've done a record with him, and he just goes, "Yeah, sounds like drums, great."
Sounds like
so
drums.
I'm less in the weeds on bearing edges and sticks and tips and like plies of wood or whatever than like microphones and like being in phase and getting good, nice ribbon tone and like where placement and making sure everything's right. I'm in those weeds right now.
Oh, I understand these weeds. Our listeners know that you are tugging on a thread that is dangerous for me. That's right.
And expensive. It turns out like drums and cymbals aren't even close.
No, not even close.
When you get talking about nice preamp, like each 16 channels that are nice, it's like, oh boy.
Oh, yeah.
That's expensive.
Yeah. That's expensive. Yeah. It's like, did I want to make a mortgage payment this month or
No. Who cares?
No, that's right. You'll do that again next month.
Yeah.
Skip it for this month.
Boring.
It's going to be fun. It's boring.
Boy.
Thank you for taking all this time.
Oh my God, what a pleasure. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. This has been great. and stay in touch, please.
Yes, please, and come out to a show this summer.
I would love to. That would be amazing.
Not Guilford, but
Guilford is 40 minutes from my house, so I'll find another place to come.
Maybe it's got to be Guilford. We'll
it
talk.
might have to be Guilford. I'll send you a note. You can,
Okay.
but feel free to tell me not Guilford. Go to Connecticut, Dave, and I will.
Listen,
It's fine. Yeah,
you'll get the straight stuff with me.
that's all I need. It's that easy. That's that easy. But yes, it would be wonderful to actually meet in person. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for talking about Resonator. She's worked so hard on that. It's really fun to see it in the world, stepping out for the first time into the world.
Right. You've been living this for far longer than than most of the rest of us have known about.
Not as long as she has. Not as long as Grace
true.
has. You know, it's Allie. Allie has been on this for a very long time, and I'm so proud of her. And just
amazing.
I'm a big fan.
I can tell. I can tell.
Yeah.
If people want to find out what you're up to, is your website the right place? Your Instagram, what's the right place to have people find you?
Those two things are the things. Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's
If you want to tell people what they are, I'll link them in the show notes too. But
it's just my name. You can just Google my name, Matt Musty, and
Perfect.
a website will come up, on Instagram, some social stuff. I'm not on there a ton, but I do. That's where. And the train website is where we're touring. You know, SaveMeSanFrancisco.com is their website, and you'll see all the stuff there.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you again, Matt. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much, Dave.
As we let people go, are there perhaps 3 words of advice that you might want to leave our listeners with?
God, live, laugh, love. No. Man, I don't know, man. It's just keep being honest.
There you go.
Yeah.
Also, in the prep doc, it said always be performing. So, folks, make sure to always be performing. And we'll see you next time. Amazing. Thank you. That was great.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.